Let's look at how God responds to Adam and Eve after they sin. Even though Adam and Eve sinned by eating the fruit, God did not punish them for their transgression. Genesis 3:7 says, "Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings." This happens before God even steps foot into the garden. This verse shows that Adam and Eve were suffering the natural consequences of their own sin. Punishment was not administered by God. Furthermore, God waits till the cool of the day to come to the garden. If God was going to punish Adam and Eve, wouldn't he do so immediately? Why would he wait? Let's continue the story. It's late in the day, and God is calling out to Adam, "Where are you?" Adam responds, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God questions Adam, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" God already knows the answer to his question. He knew that Adam and Eve had eaten the forbidden fruit, but he asked the question so that the nature of sin can start to reveal itself. Adam and Eve respond by doing something unthinkable in their previous state. They start blaming each other. Then the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I ate." And the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me and I ate." Hours ago, Adam could not bear the thought of living without Eve. Now, Adam is more than willing to throw Eve off a cliff to save himself. Shame, fear, covering, hiding, blaming are all natural consequences of transposable elements corrupting Adam and Eve's genome. Now, God intervenes by cursing the snake, the woman, and the man. Are these curses punishment from God for breaking his law? Does God demand that vengeance be distributed because Adam and Eve made a mistake? No. God's curses in Genesis 3 verses 14 to 19 are simply statements of the natural consequences of sin, of breaking his laws. Genesis 3 verses 14 to 19 are direct consequences of transposable elements. Let's investigate. First, Genesis 3:14. "So the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life." As Satan's instrument, the snake most likely got the largest dose of transposable elements out of all other creatures. We can find evidence of this in the snake's genome. There are sections of an organism's genome called Hox genes, which are an organism's blueprint. They are what tell a developing embryo to start forming a head, a spine, a chest, 2 arms, 2 legs, and so on. They control the rate at which the limbs grow so that corresponding limbs have matching lengths. The way Hox genes work is that they are sequential. Genes in the Hox cluster are turned on and off one at a time down the line till the organism is developed. In most organisms, the Hox genes are sacred, almost entirely devoid of transposable elements. Squamates, scaled reptiles, are the exception. A snake's Hox genes actually encode for limbs and even wing buds, but transposable elements have disabled these sections in the Hox genes. A transposable element has prevented a Hox gene called TBOX5, which controls growing thorax segments, from turning off. In essence, once the TBOX5 genes are active, all the snake can do is produce thorax segments. Transposable elements have rewritten the body plan of the snake. God continues with the snake in Genesis 3:15. "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Why does God single out the snake and the woman? Why their seed and her seed? What does it mean by seed anyway? It's referring to genetic material. When an embryo is first developing, the first cell divides into 2, then into 4, then into 8. At this point, cell divisions stop and the chromosomes unwind and line up. Heterochromatin and DNA methylation marks, which previously locked down many transposons, are completely removed and the entire genome is open and accessible. At this point, methylation marks are reapplied to the chromosomes, effectively resetting the methylation from the mother and father's chromosomes. No one knows for sure how the cell is able to distinguish between original DNA and transposable element DNA. If these transposable elements are not locked down, the embryo isn't viable and the pregnancy is aborted. Furthermore, because the genome is fully unlocked and open, transposable element activity is at its highest, guaranteeing that the developing baby is infected. Now, let's continue to Genesis 3:16, where God curses the woman. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. This implies that transposable elements are involved with birth. Can we find evidence of this? Yes, in fact, there is overwhelming evidence that the way humans give birth has been totally hijacked. To quote a 2009 study, the human placenta has been compared to an organ transplant based on its semi-allogenic status. Its invasive properties, however, have caused investigators to liken it to a tumor. The placenta is created by transposable elements. Endogenous retroviruses are implicated in many of the tissues required by the placenta. The syncytial trophoblast, which surrounds the fetus, invades and fuses with the wall of the uterus. This fusion uses a protein called syncytian-1, which is derived from an endogenous retrovirus. Furthermore, a DNA transposon called MER20 is thought to be the origin of the regulator network in endometrial cells. Many genes used in endometrial expression are located near MER20. The way humans give birth has been totally rewritten by transposable elements. Finally, let's consider God's last curse in Genesis 3 verses 17 to 19. Then to Adam he said, Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat of the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you are taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. In the genomic view of the Bible, Genesis 3:18 would suggest that thorns and thistles are caused by transposable elements. Is there scientific evidence to support this claim? Unfortunately, there does not seem to be much research related specifically to thorns and thistles, but here's what I have found. Many plants are polyploid, which means they have more than 2 sets of chromosomes. Studies suggest that polyploidization contributes to invasive species success, which kind of sounds like a weed to me. Polyploidization can occur in the union of unreduced gametes, but stressful situations such as nutritional stress, physical stress, and climate fluctuations may also contribute to polyploidization. Furthermore, polyploidization may disrupt the epigenetics of a plant and allow previously silenced transposons to be released. In other very recent research, the rose genome has been sequenced. The study found that transposable elements constitute 67.9% of the sequenced genome, out of which 50.6 were LTR retrotransposons. The function of these transposable elements still needs to be determined. Research into the genetics of thorns is low-hanging fruit. The lack of research presents an opportunity. Good scientific theories are testable and make falsifiable predictions. Therefore, following the genomic view of the Bible, I predict that transposable elements will be the root cause of thorns. In the midst of all this mess, God gave the first future prophecy in the Bible in Genesis 3:15. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. God is effectively saying, Satan, you may have won the battle, but you will lose the war. God has a plan out of this transposable element mess and will have victory over sin.